Hey guys, happy Friday. I had the week off and wish I did this earlier in the week, but here we are. Also wish I could rewind to last Friday and just do all the things I didn't do this week while I was off. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good week. We read chapters 19 and 20 in Director's Vision and Keeping Momentum Alive, chapter 10 in Hey Kids. So I think I wrote long on the other ones. I might talk more about Hey Kids today, but I'll start off with the direct kind of that chapter 19, the power of rhythm and tempo and performances. I thought this was really interesting. I think especially because I work a lot with middle school performers, they do have that tendency to sort of rush their lines and try to get through it. Sometimes they either aren't as comfortable with the silence or maybe, I don't know, they're just not being as thoughtful. So I think really trying to, work with them to develop, their use of rhythm and tempo in different scenes is so important. I definitely, when I approach blocking scenes or running through acting in scenes, I'll say, oh, the tempo of this scene is fast or this one's slow. But I think, and sometimes I'm very explicit about why that is and why that's important. But this chapter definitely made me think about that even more, just about how intentional we need to be at our pace and how powerful, a moment of silence or a fast paced scene or suddenly when something is slowed down, those really can be powerful moments. And it's really important to make sure our actors are taking the time and using them. And I think especially with younger kids, sometimes they either aren't as thoughtful or just don't have the comfort, sitting in the silence, but it's really important. And I think it's also important, especially when you're working with younger actors, to focus on that with their scene partners also, so they know what to expect. Chapter 20 really talked about the director's responsibility, and made me think a lot about how important it is to keep a critical eye on the performance. Every rehearsal is so valuable, and I definitely find that when I kind of finish blocking the show and everybody has, for the most part, their blocking notes and the scenes are laid out and people know where to go, what to do, it is so tempting for me to just be like, okay, let me watch it now. Especially because in those, I should plan everything way out in advance, but generally I am blocking things like the night before, late at night, and it's kind of exhausting pace, especially when it's the school year and I'm teaching and I'm directing and then I'm going home and I'm planning and I'm dealing with my kids and all the other things. So it's definitely very tempting when the show has first been blocked to just kind of sit back and let them run it. But every moment and every rehearsal is so valuable. So really being intentional with our decisions and really always watching with that critical eye and giving those notes is just so important. I really find it's helpful to record. I videotape a lot of my rehearsals. So if I'm not like up there working with them, I'm taping, and then I'm going home and I'm watching that tape, and then that allows me to make notes so I can come back and give them the feedback at the next rehearsal. So sometimes the day after I finish blocking the show, I might just sit back and maybe I'll record and just let kind of see how it all lays together. But, it's really important as a director to be engaged and to be, kind of giving that direction and continuing, the growth and development of the show, because it always is such a short timeline. So I'm going to focus mostly on Hey Kids, because I found as I was typing my response, it's so funny. The chapters are so short, but there's so much I want to say about them. I kind of started to go off on tangents and then I deleted because I was like, this is too much. So I'm going to talk about the things that I didn't write about as much. So one thing was they were talking about upping the ante, and definitely I have felt that, having started a program from the ground up at a school and then also in my own theater company. Doing that first show is so exciting to get everybody on board, but then after it's happened, there's even more excitement. At my school, parents wanted more. They wanted to do more shows. My stipend was for one show, so I wasn't going to do more shows, but they wanted classes, so I started teaching classes. The kids that weren't old enough to be in the show, I offered a program for them, and just all this excitement started to sort of grow around it. We definitely found the same thing at our theater company. We did our summer show. Let's just see how it goes. Went great. We went and did a winter show, another summer show. Now we're doing 2 shows every summer. So the program's really grown and people want more. The kids get that bug and they want it. And the parents are excited because often theater kids haven't found their thing until they find theater. So parents want more too. So definitely I have found that when you have done something for the first time, especially in theater, you do sort of have to up the ante. I was thinking about when I did Little Mermaid. We had a bubble machine. Fine, that was cute. But then we did Elf and we went to a snow machine. So just kind of like upping the ante of that magic, right? Snow was cooler than bubbles. And then we did Frozen, and then, we had more snow and there was even more effects happening. So with each show, kind of those things sort of grow. In my last show, it took place in the 50s. So, we weren't going to have tons of special effects, but we really went for it with costumes and choreography. So just finding that way to grow your performance. And as the talent grows, as your resources grow, you can do more with it. So, we should see better sets. We should see better costumes and props. And, I'm certainly not trying to always one up the previous show, but with more resources, comes more not availability, but more ability. I was also thinking about, kind of that piece about actors and giving, spreading out the parts and not always giving the lead to the same kids. And definitely that's something that's hard because you have these kids that are just so incredibly talented and you know what you're going to get from them. And then these kids come in that might maybe are a little bit more green, but really show potential. And I do think it's important to spread it out. I don't love taking a super talented lead and throwing him into the back of the ensemble, but giving him a supporting character or maybe a featured ensemble role or a solo, it can definitely be good for them. Sometimes it can be humbling for them, and that can be important too. And there's definitely those times when you have that kid that hasn't had a part before and this is just the right role for them and they get their moment to shine. I found that I did Wizard of Oz last year, and the child that played Toto had really never done anything stand out in any of my shows before, but she was so wonderful and just really stole the show as Toto, and it wasn't a production where Toto really had lines. And this year she came back and she's playing Mrs. Peru in The Music Man. So it's amazing when you give a kid that moment to shine, what they can do and where they can grow from that. So that's really important. I think I was also thinking about the part about allowing, cast members to prioritize other interests. I was a full-on theater kid. I wasn't I wasn't a typical athlete, but I was a horseback rider. I did equestrian, and it is important to have balance and to be able to enjoy other things. And definitely theater took first place for me. If I was busy, if I was doing a big show, I would scale back to horseback riding. But it was important for me to have other things going on in my life, and I definitely think that's important for our kids too. So I try to, you have a dance recital, you can go to that. You have a concert, that's important too, but definitely making sure that they're making enough of a priority of the show that they're not, missing so many rehearsals and then, screwing other people over on the other end. So for my school shows, we have a contract they sign. They're not supposed to miss more than 2 rehearsals. Obviously, serious illness is a whole nother thing. But, letting them, you got 2 days. I don't want you to miss the 2 days, but if you have to, choose them wisely. And I think that really does help and allows them to sort of know what they're in for and helps them to prioritize, because I definitely have had kids that they sign that contract and maybe they don't follow through, or things come to the end and they've missed more time or something else comes up, and it's harder for everybody. So it's important to honor their other commitments and let them be balanced, but also make sure they're committed to the show so it's not a detriment to the rest of us. I could go on and on, but I'll stop there. Have a great week, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.